Part 59. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 582. Speaking of the fifth vote in the Sports Academy, it was really unfair. All the cheers that should have belonged to him were snatched away by Wang Ling. When he turned over, a huge weight was placed on him, which made him want to scold his mother now. Yes. However, it was useless. No matter how much he complained, he still had to face what he had to face, and he couldn't escape this shot. Under the gaze of all eyes, the fifth thrower of the Sports Academy finally took his place and started throwing. The first throw was 20.6 meters, the second throw was 22.8 meters, the third throw was 24.5 meters, and the final score was 24.5 meters. Although this result was superior to everyone else's, Wang Ling's 45.6 meter result seemed lackluster. Although he had obviously finished second in the competition, he felt disgraced. Now, all the throws are over. After summarizing, the teacher of the Physical Education Institute sighed and announced the final results. The total score of the School of Economics is 110.7 meters, and the total score of the Institute of Physical Education is 98.9 meters. In the third competition, the winner is Economics Academy. Ha ha ha, I won again. It's the third game, and we've won half of it. Good. After hearing the results report, the School of Economics, both the contestants and the audience in the stands, all cheered with excitement. Correspondingly, the faces of the athletes from the Sports Academy looked extremely ugly. The faces of the spectators from the Sports Academy in the stands also had different expressions. Some thought the game was interesting and enjoyed watching it, while others found it interesting. The person covered his face, obviously feeling embarrassed. There were even some grumpy people who stood up and scolded them, "What are you doing for food? You can't even compare to the School of Economics. Are you practicing physical education in vain?" They are both students with special sports skills, who will be convinced by whom? After 3 consecutive games, all failed. This group of irritable spectators directly blamed the contestants in the Sports Academy, and even wanted to compete in person. Do you really blame them? In fact, these contestants from the School of Physical Education were also very wronged. They thought they would win surely, but who knew there was such a big change in the School of Economics? However, if they lose, they lose. Faced with the roar of the audience, they have no way to defend themselves. These 3 competitions are a little troublesome to carry out, but in fact they don't take too long. There is still some time before dark. If you hurry up, the remaining 3 competitions can be completed before dark. However, rules are rules. It has been decided that the remaining 3 events will be held tomorrow. Without any unexpected circumstances, they will certainly not be held in advance. For this reason, the teacher of the Physical Education Institute did not allow the spectators from the Physical Education Institute to curse too much. He directly pressed his hand from a distance and silenced all the voices before announcing, the 6 competitions between the Physical Education Institute and the School of Economics will be divided into 2 days are completed. The first 3 items have been completed today, and the last 3 items will be held tomorrow morning. During the remaining period, the contestants from the School of Economics can do whatever they want, and they can also stay in the temporary dormitory for 1 night. If you don't want to go back, you can stay here. Stay the night. Okay, that's it for today, let's disperse and go about your own business. Cough. After hearing the order to disband, the group of spectators in the stands were immediately dissatisfied. They came in force and wanted to watch the game for a while. Unexpectedly, they only watched 1 game, and some people only watched 2 games. Already disbanded. However, due to the rules, no one protested. A group of spectators stood up and left the table one after another. There were some sighs and even some curses in the process. The audience from the School of Economics was so happy that they jumped off the stands one after another, found their respective roommates, and celebrated with laughter. Among them, Wang Ling naturally became a major protagonist, and some guys he had never met before started to chat with him. Wei Bowen even called him inhuman, which made a group of people laugh. Originally, most people were not optimistic about the match against the Sports Institute, but unexpectedly, they actually won 3 games in a row. This was really an unexpected surprise. Naturally, a group of people were ecstatic, and some even quickly took out their mobile phones when they were happy. The news was sent back to the best friends in the school. Seeing the happy faces of these people, a group of contestants from the sports academy had burning pain on their faces. They didn't even leave a single word to support the scene and just walked away in disgrace, giving people a feeling of running away. They had lost momentum, but the School of Economics was gaining momentum. Taking advantage of this advantage, Luo Feng seemed to be a bit unreasonable. When Luo Feng saw the people in the Sports Institute, he stopped them with a "Hey." The athlete from the Sports Academy stopped, turned around and asked, "What are you doing?" Luo Feng smiled and said, "It's nothing, I just think it's a bit funny." "Who of you said it would be 6-0 before?" "My memory is not very good, I forgot who it was." This guy really seems to be kicking his nose and getting into trouble. But other contestants from the School of Economics liked this question and quickly urged, "That's right, who said that? Come out and walk around for 2 times, we promise not to laugh at him. I have a bad memory and am a bit face blind. I really don't remember who could have said it." Hateful. Although it is said that they are arrogant in the first place, this kind of cowardice is really unbearable for most people. After hearing this, the players from the Sports Academy were so angry that they could not lose even if they lose. One of them directly declared war. "Don't get too complacent too early. Get ready for tomorrow's 3 items. We won't show mercy." After saying that, he didn't even care about the ridicule from the people in the School of Economics, he turned around and walked away quickly. After leaving the playground, the irritation on the faces of this group of players suddenly turned into frowns. "What will we do tomorrow?" Someone immediately responded, "Yeah, it won't be easy tomorrow. It's really embarrassing. Even if we win all 3 items tomorrow, it will be a draw at best. Others must not laugh at us to death. I'm not willing to accept it, even if it's a draw." Who would be willing to do that? Haven't you seen how those people are trying to get their way? What can we do if we don't give in? Let alone a draw, we don't know if we can win tomorrow. I thought the School of Economics was easy to bully, but who knows how there is such a perverted guy. Compete in wrestling and fencing with that pervert in fighting, I really have no confidence that I can win. That's right. The man named Wang Ling is so fierce. He is simply not on the same level as us. Don't be too self-deprecating. It's not that we are not good, but that Wang Ling is too strong. This time, the School of Economics is relying on Wang Ling to turn the tide. If there are only others, they will definitely be beaten by us in minutes. That's what I said, but didn't you look at the list? Wang Ling participated in all events. This simply doesn't give us any chance of winning. What the School of Economics did this time is absolutely terrible. That's right. Is there any way to prevent him from participating in the next competition? With this method, how can you still send him to the hospital? Huh? Call the hospital? He. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 583. At this point, someone among the group of academy contestants seemed to have an idea and started laughing, a bit sinisterly. The others were not stupid. They saw his thoughts at a glance, and then some people questioned, "Don't fool around. This is a competition, and we fight with people just because we are afraid of losing, and even send people to the hospital. Speaking of which, it's us who are embarrassed. Others also echoed, yes, and this method is too dark, it's just like a movie, no, no, no. However, others have different views, can't you be so pedantic? We are doing this for the honor of our school. Otherwise, wouldn't it be more embarrassing to be beaten 6-0? Holy shit, this is such a crappy thing. From what you're saying, it seems like no matter what we do, we will be disgraced. It's light and heavy. What can we do? Who asked the School of Economics to trick us this time? They have already won 3 games, so they can't lose all the next 3 games, right? Even if it's a draw, it's better than losing. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Don't forget, this is our territory. We must have reason for doing things. With the grievances between students from our 2 schools, as long as we are reasonable, even if the 2 sides fight, they will not can't fault it. Jean Lee? That's easy to say, but where do we get Jean Lee? We beat people, but we still have Jean Lee. You're stupid, what's wrong with this reason? Haven't you seen their arrogant attitude? This attitude can easily cause trouble in our school. Many people with bad tempers are unhappy with them and start fighting. It couldn't be more normal. Hee, it seems so. But what if they are not in our school and just slip away? This is a question. It depends on the situation. If they are still in our school, then find an opportunity to discuss with each other. If they give up and go back to their School of Economics, then just leave it to fate. It can only be the ... On their way back to the dormitory building, a sinister plan had quietly been put on the agenda for this group of college contestants. But at this time, the people from the School of Economics were still in the playground, cheering and celebrating for a long time, until the leader, Teacher Joe, suppressed them and stopped them. He looked at the group of students and stared at Wang Ling twice, and then Teacher Joe said, "You can make your own arrangements for the rest of the time. Those who have classes can go back to class, and those who don't have classes can do as they please. Today you can stay here tonight. But you have to pay attention, this is the Sports Institute, not our School of Economics, so keep a low profile and don't cause trouble." Okay. Don't worry, teacher. Teacher Joe's words were actually close to cowardly in the hearts of this group of students. However, after winning 3 games in a row, this group of people felt very comfortable and did not have any dissatisfaction. They dismissed Teacher Joe with a few perfunctory words. Teacher Joe would not stay with them for the rest of the time. After saying hello, he went back to school directly. As for the remaining people, some of them didn't want to stay out any longer and simply took the bus back to school. The remaining 20 or so people, including some players and classmates, chose to stay here, and Wang Ling was also among them. After all, when I returned to school, I just spent time in the dormitory playing games. There were no other entertainment projects in the school. Anyway, the roommates were all gathered together and already in the gym, so I just wandered around here and treated it as free. Traveled. After leaving the playground, a group of people wandered around the gymnasium, walking here and walking around there. Because of the relationship between the 2 schools, they rarely go to each other's school. When they first arrived at the sports academy, they were naturally curious. It was rare that they could use the excuse of a fraternity game to stay in the sports academy openly without wandering around the place. Will not give up. As an open university, people from outside the school often come to visit and play. This is normal, and students in the Sports Institute have long been accustomed to it. However, after all, the 2 schools have a special relationship, and there are more than 20 people gathered together, so it is inevitable that they are still a bit eye-catching. When they come and go, you can often see the strange looks of students from the Physical Education Institute. Naturally, this includes some athletes from the Sports Academy. These people have been waiting for Wang Ling and his group to be arrogant and provocative, so that they can take the opportunity to teach them a lesson and focus on dealing with Wang Ling. But in fact, after the game, Wang Ling and his group had no intention of provocation at all. They only focused on having fun. Although they are young and vigorous now, not everyone is so aggressive. In this way, the athletes of the sports academy were frustrated. They didn't want to embarrass the sports academy. How could they take action directly without a legitimate reason? After all, everyone who comes is a guest. As for Wang Ling and his group, they may not know the little thoughts of the players in the sports academy at all, and they are just wandering around. However, although the area of the sports academy is large enough, 3 times the size of their school of economics, the playground takes up almost half of the area, so there is no need to visit. After wandering around the remaining places for half an hour or so, I had already visited the entire sports academy. Apart from the different cultural environment, there is nothing special here. Of course, Wang Ling and the others did not feel bored. Instead, they turned around and left the sports courtyard and wandered around the sports complex. This university, regardless of its level, can always stimulate a series of industries. The most typical one is the snack street near the school. The whole street is filled with all kinds of delicious food. In addition, there are various entertainment venues, such as billiard halls, KTV, internet cafes, etc., which are very busy and prosperous. But after continuing to wander here for nearly half an hour, this group of them committed the old habit again and ignored other entertainment venues. A group of people went directly into the internet cafe and started hacking together. Wang Ling was also a little bit dumbfounded about this. There are internet cafes near the School of Economics and even on campus. It's rare to go out, but you have to go to an internet cafe near the Sports Institute. This behavior is really stupid. However, most people wanted to give it a try, and Wang Ling naturally had no barriers. A group of people played here for several hours and did not leave until evening. After playing so late near the sports center, it was obvious that this group of people did not plan to go back to school tonight. Soon after leaving the internet cafe, some activists found an open-air barbecue stall, and about 20 people went directly there to eat. Of course, every move of this group of people near the Sports Institute cannot be hidden from the eyes and ears of the Sports Institute. Now they may not know it. They learned that their group went to the barbecue stall. The Sports Institute is mainly composed of those athletes. The people have also been organized and headed to the same outdoor barbecue stall collectively. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 584. Open Air Barbecue Stall. This is a good place to do things. Especially the open-air barbecue stall near the sports center. When these young and vigorous sports students caught up with them, something happened every 2 days. As a result, over time, the owner of the barbecue restaurant got used to it, and even tables and chairs used for dining are all made of plastic, which are very cheap and easy to break. It is also easy to seek compensation afterwards. Tonight, some of the students from the physical education college who went to this outdoor barbecue stall together had criminal records and went there together. It was like they were familiar with the road. However, Wang Ling and the others didn't know it yet. After a group of people sat down, a few of them ordered a lot of skewers, peanuts, and edamame. Beer was charged by the box. It was a rare occasion for me to leave school and go to a barbecue stall near the sports center. I had barbecue and drank beer that night. This group of people looked so relaxed and happy. After downing a large bottle of beer and eating a handful of skewers, someone finally took this opportunity to talk about the competition. Wang Ling, brother, let's not talk about anything else. As for your explosive power today, I mean it. Except. Originally, I thought we came to the physical education center to have a final struggle. Hey, I didn't expect that the school would arrange for you, a pervert, to do this. The physical education center is called a disgraced person. You saw them walking out of the playground. Wasn't that expression so wonderful when it came out? Ha ha ha, I saw it, I saw it. I have been suppressed by the sports center, and today I finally turned over. Seeing their disgraced faces, it's really great. Haha, continue tomorrow, him 620. Dot. Hey, who is so loud? When this topic came up, the 20 or so people from the School of Economics were very excited. They talked to each other as if they no longer paid attention to the Sports Institute. And just as he was talking happily, a discordant sound suddenly came from not far away. He turned around and saw that it was the contestants from the Sports Academy. More than 10 people, with about 20 unfamiliar faces, were walking towards here collectively. Come over. There were more than 30 people in the group, and they were very aggressive, and it seemed as if they might start a fight at any time over this topic. Of course, if people like these from the Sports Academy want to fight, they have to have a valid reason. This is not yet the case, and Wei Bowen pointed it out directly. What, you are not convinced? A group of people ran away. Are you here to regain face after losing on the field and beat us up in private so that we can't participate in the game tomorrow? With his words, the group of people in the School of Economics immediately became vigilant, and Zhang Shen directly asked, can't you afford to lose? In addition, some people asked strange questions. Dongfang Yuking even took out his mobile phone and clicked on the video recording function. Come on, hurry up if you want to do it. I'll take a picture and put it online. Maybe I can attract a lot of fans. The group of people from the School of Physical Education felt aggrieved. They wanted to take advantage of the situation so that they could discuss with each other, but who knew that the group of people from the School of Economics actually acted out of common sense, making them passive and giving them no reason to take action? Nothing. We're here to eat, and it's not like you can open this barbecue restaurant. Someone finally choked out a sentence. There is no way, I can't find any reason now. You can't say that a group of people came here to watch a show, right? Lin Fei shrugged his shoulders. It's up to you, as long as you don't think our words are unpleasant. Tisk, look at you guys, aren't you just relying on that guy named Wang Ling? A player from the Sports Academy was unconvinced. But Zhang Shenke directly admitted, yes, we are relying on Wang Ling. If you want to win, you must first compare with Wang Ling. A group of people in the sports center were speechless again. They could only hold their breath, find another seat, and order a bunch of skewers. Wang Ling watched the group of them bickering and seemed a bit dumbfounded. However, he couldn't bear to participate in a fight of this level. As long as the Sports Academy didn't go too far, he could just watch the show from the sidelines. Finding no reason to take action, the people from the School of Physical Education had no choice but to eat their dinner peacefully. Seeing that they had no intention of taking action, the people from the School of Economics felt relieved, and then they started talking again. However, these people are not stupid. In front of a group of college students, they stopped talking about the competition. They chatted casually, and the topics were all over the place. After drinking 4 bottles of beer, someone suddenly said, Brother Wang Ling, hey, if you don't mind, how about I become your little brother? Don't ask for anything else. If someone wants to bully me, can you help me? I'll beat him up and that's it. Wang Ling was a little shocked for a moment. Why does he still recognize his elder brother? Cut. But before Wang Ling could answer, someone began to sarcastically say, You Joe Mouse is so spineless, you really deserve your nickname. I used to treat Zheng Long as my boss, buy him breakfast every day, and treat him like a grandson. But in the end, no one helped you fight, he himself was beaten away. The person known as Joe Motzi scratched his head in embarrassment. Well, that's not what I am trying to do, isn't it that I want to have a relationship? His brother Zhang Kui is a local snake, there is no harm in getting to know more people, right? But who knows, this time, even his brother was in trouble. He, I even inquired about this matter, and it was all done by brother Wang Ling, so I took advantage of this opportunity and hugged him quickly. If it's too late, it's too late. Cut. A group of people rolled their eyes. Wang Ling was dumbfounded. After shaking his head in rejection, he suddenly thought of something and asked, by the way, Zheng Long, I haven't heard from him for a long time. What have you been doing lately? Although this person is very annoying, after all, Wang Ling was forced to leave school in the first place. Of course, Wang Ling also wanted to find out more information. As a result, Zhou Moza waved his hands with a look of helplessness. Ahem, forget it, Zheng Long seemed to have been hit hard that time. I don't know where he went after he dropped out of school, and there has been no news. Forget it, don't mention him anymore, it hurts your feelings, come on, keep drinking. A group of people now didn't care at all about the students from the physical education college who were watching eagerly from the side. It was time to eat and drink. As the protagonist of this group of people, Wang Ling was the key person to be respected. Wang Ling also counted them all and drank them all, very proudly. After all, the vodka drank in the red alert world has a very high alcohol content. After drinking too much of that kind of wine, drinking beer in the real world is really not that intoxicating. Of course, you can drink it without any scruples. However, there is an old saying that those who drown are those who know how to drink water. Wang Ling drank with this attitude. He drank too much that night. He even thought that the beer content was too low, so he ordered white wine and mixed it with alcohol. Got up. As a result, that night, even though I had already exercised my drinking ability, I still got drunk and fell asleep. After being drunk, the possibilities are endless, so many words are omitted here. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 585. The next day, Wang Ling felt a faint feeling of dizziness, and then his eyes seemed to be illuminated by a bright light. He slowly opened his eyes and found that he was lying in the temporary dormitory of the Physical Education Institute. Some of the other students around him were while packing things, some were chatting on their mobile phones. Wei Bowen was not a contestant, and now he was also playing with his mobile phone here. Seeing this, Wang Ling was stunned for a while before he remembered that he was drinking last night. It seemed that this was a fragment. After reaching out his hand and rubbing his forehead, he suddenly thought of something and sat up suddenly. Damn, what time is it now? Hey, are you awake? Don't be so startled. Isn't it scary? It's already past 11 in the morning. After hearing this time, Wang Ling became anxious. Oh no, the game time has been delayed. Drinking will ruin things. Ahem, what kind of competition is this? We won, and the Sports Institute has given up, Wei Bowen answered in a dumbfounded voice. Wang Ling was confused. What's going on? You've already been admitted to the hospital, how can you compete? Ha! It seems that after drinking too much last night, some exciting things happened, but now Wang Ling doesn't remember it at all, but feels a slight headache. When talking about this, the guys in the temporary dormitory became a little excited. Many people stuck their heads out and asked, you really have no impression at all? Wang Ling shook his head in embarrassment. What's the matter with not having any memory? Haha, brother, you really drank too much last night. You were bragging to us, and you were also able to do drunken boxing. There are more than 30 people in the sports academy who can't beat you. Zhou Muzi rushed up, his face full of excitement. Just started talking. Wang Ling rubbed his forehead, and seemed to feel even more dizzy after hearing this. Don't be anxious, don't be anxious, tell me slowly, what's the matter with bragging? When did I do drunken boxing again? What does this have to do with the Sports Institute? Haha, it's a long story. Go on, you guy always adds more fuel and jealousy to what you say, and you're playing with your eggs at the same time. Joe Moza was just about to say it, but he was pushed aside. Then Wei Bowen explained with excitement, it's really true love after drinking. I never knew you were so good at bragging. You said you command hundreds of soldiers and dozens of tanks. You are the second in command in the base and fight against Yuri's troops. Ha ha ha, this made me laugh out loud last night. Why didn't you make a draft when you were bragging? And you still say one thing after another. What? Wei Bowen was laughing so hard, but after hearing this, Wang Ling suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. Commanding hundreds of soldiers and dozens of tanks, being the second in command of the base, and fighting against Yuri's troops, this series of things is not just bragging, it is a real thing in the world of Red Alert. However, the extra-dimensional system cannot be exposed at all, otherwise there will be endless trouble. After drinking too much, he actually revealed these things. How could Wang Ling not be afraid? This is simply juggling on the tip of a knife. What else did I brag about? Forcibly suppressing the panic in his heart, Wang Ling hurriedly asked again. Wei Bowen shook his head this time and said, no, isn't it enough for you to brag about it? Call. After Wang Ling heard this, he breathed a sigh of relief. After all, he had not exposed the existence of the extra-dimensional system head-on. Things in the Red Alert world could be treated as bragging. However, for the sake of safety, Wang Ling still dealt with the aftermath. It's good for us people to know about this matter, but don't tell anyone else. Haha, I understand. I know, we're not that boring to tell people this. Learn. Others assured that they all thought that Wang Ling was embarrassed and didn't want to be publicized. Although if it is really publicized, it will at most make people laugh twice, but all things that may expose the extra-dimensional system must be stopped and concealed at all costs. After all, people like Professor Li Dong might not regard these words as bragging. If he really knew it, Wang Ling would have a headache. You must never drink like this again. Thinking of this, Wang Ling couldn't help but sighed in fear. And this sentence made others laugh. That's right, you guy, you are not good at wine. Ahem, it's actually not a big deal. It's just that the people in the sports academy suffered. Huh? By the way, what's going on with the sports academy? Finally putting an end to the topic of bragging, Wang Ling noticed the news about the sports academy. Wei Bowen continued, well, those people from the sports academy were actually looking for trouble for us last night. After you drank too much, you started bragging, but someone over there couldn't stand it and made a few sarcastic remarks. It's better for you to slap me. Table, come up and train. This training doesn't matter. Those people in the sports academy finally found a reason and lit the fuse. The war is about to break out. There are only a few of us, and our fists and kicks are not good, but you rushed forward alone, Black Tiger. Eviscerate the heart, steal the peach by the monkey, cut off the children and grandchildren, soar the dragon in the sky, regret the dragon. With this combination of tricks, all the people in the sports academy were knocked down. When narrating this process, Wei Bowen was extremely excited. He started gesticulating while talking, which made Wang Ling a little dumbfounded. What kind of fighting situation is this? Don't listen to his nonsense. At this time, Zhang Shenke pushed Wei Bowen in the face, pushed him aside, and added on his behalf, actually, you were drunk, and those people in the sports center borrowed you took the opportunity to provoke trouble, but you ended up playing drunken fist. No one in the sports hospital beat you. A group of people were beaten so hard that they broke their arms and legs. They were sent to the hospital that night. Everyone else also had a bruised nose and face. When he saw us, he was like a mouse when he saw a cat, hiding away. So cruel. Wang Ling was a little bit dumbfounded. Even if he got into a fight on weekdays, he wouldn't hit so hard, but who told him to drink too much last night? This kind of result is probably due to drunkenness and trying to restrain it, otherwise it might have been on the news, a drunken fight in a certain school, several people were killed and some were injured. Isn't that right? We didn't even do anything last night, we just watched you perform there by yourself. It was so enjoyable and a relief. Others chimed in. Hey, now, in front of our School of Economics, the Physical Education Institute doesn't dare to be arrogant anymore. This fight really hurts them. This is such a big fuss that all the teachers from the Physical Education School know about it. This morning, the teachers from the Physical Education School directly admitted defeat on behalf of the students of the Physical Education School. Ha ha ha. We have to admit defeat. Half of the more than 30 people from the Physical Fitness Center are going to participate in the competition today, but half of them ended up in the hospital. Even if there is a real competition, they can't do it. The last 3 items are all about fighting. More than 30 people have never beaten a drunken one of us. How can we beat a hammer in this competition? Hey, tell me, if we make a fuss like this, will the school punish us? Will the sports center give us small shoes? Punishment. We are representing the school, which is equivalent to starting the competition early. Why should we be punished? It is even more impossible for the sports academy. They are eager to get this matter over as soon as possible. How can they give us special shoes? Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 586. Many classmates spoke to each other, and their conversations were full of cheerfulness and relief. Of course, some people were worried about punishment, but when it was related to the competition, this concern was directly dispelled. Originally, this group of people had already prepared to fail, but unexpectedly, there was a sudden turn of events. On the first day, they won all 3 games. On the second day, the School of Sports immediately admitted defeat and the School of Economics won. This is really a feeling of pride. As contestants and accompanying personnel from the academy, this group of people feel much more at ease now. Even when the news came back to the school, many students in the school were a little unbelievable, but after accepting the news, they became excited again. Ha ha ha, good job. Holy crap, no, you competed with the Sports Institute for a sports event, and you actually won. Hey, from now on, people from the Sports Academy will never think of being arrogant in front of us. After all, the nature of this game is very special. Although it is verbally a friendly match between the 2 schools, it is actually a revenge match for the School of Economics. Winning this game will suppress the arrogance of the Sports Institute. Not to mention what happens between the 2 schools, at least if the Sports Institute comes to cause trouble here at the School of Economics, it will have to weigh it. Of course, as contestants from the school, this group of people are not too arrogant. They are also self-aware and know the gap between them and the students of the Sports Institute. If they can win the game, it is entirely Wang Ling who can turn the tide. So these people now admire Wang Ling from the bottom of their hearts. As the absolute protagonist, Wang Ling's focus is not on the game at all. He has been regretting it until now. Why did he drink so much last night? There must be a limit to telling the truth while drunk. Why do you say everything to others? I have no choice but to drink and talk, and now I can only hope that others will not take this cow to heart. After enlightening himself, Wang Ling lay down on the bed and rested for a while, then got up to wash up, do some activities and then went to the cafeteria of the sports hospital. Now, the battle last night has spread in the Sports Institute. Many people know that there is a fierce person in the School of Economics. After seeing Wang Ling and the others in the cafeteria, these students in the Sports Institute can no longer ignore them, and even some people with criminal records are still avoiding them intentionally or unintentionally. This attitude was completely different from the previous attitude of contempt and ridicule, which made everyone except Wang Ling feel relieved. Now that the game has ended, and the Sports Institute and its surroundings have been moved around, there is no need for Wang Ling and the others to stay in the Sports Institute anymore. After a simple lunch, the group left the Sports Institute one after another, and some of them took the bus. Some people took taxis and went directly back to school. Logically speaking, if you go out to represent the school and return with a great victory when everyone thinks you will lose, why should there be a welcome ceremony, right? But in fact, this is not the case. People nowadays have poor memories. After all, this game is not a formal game. It is just to give the school students a chance to cheer up. Except for being excited for a while after getting the victory news, other times, the emotion quickly faded away. Wang Ling and the others returned to school as victors, but no one greeted them. Even teacher Zhou, who led the team before, took a taxi back to school after learning the news and did not join them. Think about how Wang Ling cheered loudly after defeating the stumbling block in the red alert world not long ago. But now he is left out in the cold. The contrast is too obvious. However, this was in line with Wang Ling's original intention of keeping a low profile. He just shrugged his shoulders without taking it seriously, and walked back to the dormitory with Zhang Shenke and the others. Seeing Wang Ling's attitude, the others didn't feel embarrassed to complain. They scratched their heads and dispersed. Of course, the school did not take this victory to heart at all. They received a notice that afternoon and the class meeting would continue in the evening. At the class meeting, as expected, the head of the department announced the results in front of everyone and gave Wang Ling and others high praise. Of course, it is just verbal praise and has no practical benefits. If anything, it should have attracted admiring looks from all the students in the department, which made him a little popular and satisfied his vanity. Apart from this, there was nothing else unusual about this class meeting. After the department head and others left, a group of unfettered students quickly ran out of the classroom and became active in the school. Because of the competition, Zhang Shenke and Wei Bowen took several days off, and Dongfang Yuking also stayed in the dormitory. It was rare for these people to reunite. However, the day after the game, the two of them said goodbye and left. Dongfang Yuking and Sun Tongtong stayed with Wang Ling until the evening, then left and went to the place they rented off campus. At this point, Wang Ling's life has returned to its original state again. Looking at this empty dormitory, he can't help but sigh. Woof woof. However, Wang Ling is not lonely after all. At least he has the police dog Xiao He accompanying him, acting coquettishly and having fun, so he is not too lonely in the real world. That night, Wang Ling returned to the Red Alert world and continued his previous travels between the two worlds. In the current Red Alert world, everything is very quiet, but under this quietness, there is also a raging war hidden. The Psychic Empire is eyeing the enemy, making both the coalition and allied forces very uneasy. Defense forces are being deployed in various battlefields, and crack generators are being built everywhere to block the Psychic Empire's super weapons and confuse Yuri's troops. Of course, the most important thing is to wait for the technological innovation of the Allied spy satellites. This process can't be rushed. Wang Ling returned to the Red Alert world and stayed in the Holy City area. He had nothing to do for a while. He could only walk around and mobilize the defense troops. Occasionally, Yuri troops will come to attack, but after the previous heavy losses, it will be difficult for Yuri troops to organize large-scale attacks in a short time. In addition, the first military technology exchange between the Alliance and the Allies has been successful. With the addition of these corresponding military units, the combat effectiveness and response capabilities have also been greatly improved. This small force was completely unable to defeat them and was quickly wiped out. In this way, 2 days passed quickly, with peace mixed with some war. This morning, the sky was clear, and Wang Ling was wandering around the base as usual, stretching his muscles. And just when he was silently thinking about how long this situation would last, there was a sudden sound of the electronic map rotating in his mind. He quickly looked at the electronic map from his subconscious, and then realized that the observation range of this situation was usually very limited. The electronic map is expanding rapidly, and its scope is quickly spreading beyond the holy city, and it is still spreading greatly. Seeing this, Wang Ling realized that the Allied spy satellites had finally completed the first round of technological innovation. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 587. Buzz. 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 There is a buzzing sound in my mind all the time. At the same time, the electronic map is constantly expanding its observation range. After covering the entire holy city, the suburbs are also included in the electronic map, and then continue to spread slowly. All roads and suburbs, the land, and even a stretch of low-altitude hills, were successively reflected on the electronic map. Watching the expansion of the electronic map, Wang Ling sighed, but also gradually became nervous. In the world of Red Alert, there is always peace. Yuri's troops hidden in the depths of darkness are always a serious concern for the coalition and allied forces. If they are not solved, they will have trouble sleeping and eating every day. On weekdays, Yuri's troops cannot be observed, and they dare not explore the electronic map rashly. Although many front lines are stationed safely, they will fight to the death sooner or later. With the completion of the first technological innovation of the Allied spy satellites, the electronic maps of all fronts have been expanded several times, and some of Yuri's troops and even the location of Yuri's base can always be observed. By then, it will be time for bloodshed and battles. Time for sacrifice. For example, in the current Holy City area, it is clearly known that there are Yuri troops or Yuri bases nearby. With the expansion of this round of electronic maps, it is finally possible to see the locations of these Yuri bases. The group of Yuri troops closest to the Holy City is at the foot of the mountain outside. This group of Yuri troops has established a base in this area. A large number of the Yuri base buildings mentioned by Wang Ling during the joint meeting can be seen here, such as biochemical reactors, tank factories, and psychic detection. Weapons, combat laboratories, mind control towers, getter cannons, etc. There are still some Yuri troops patrolling around at all times. There are several slave mines beside the mines in the distance, and more than 10 people who were forcibly captured. The slaves are still doing hard labor day and night. Although this base has not yet reached its peak development period and does not have too many buildings, it seems to have reached a certain scale and looks quite tricky. From previous defensive battles, Wang Ling had judged that not only was there a Yuri base outside the holy city, but there was probably more than one. Now, this idea has finally been confirmed. After the first Yuri base was exposed, the electronic map was still expanding. Not long after, the second Yuri base was also revealed on a flat ground on the mountainside. This base is similar to the first one. Various buildings are relatively complete. However, due to its geographical location, it is inconvenient to develop too many ground troops, so the focus is on air power. The more than 10 laser UFOs in the sky are like guards. They circle around the base, constantly rotating, as if on patrol. In the tank factory, a newly produced laser UFO is also released from time to time, gathering together, seemingly waiting for the next attack. After this base, the electronic map continued to expand, and soon the third Yuri base appeared. This Yuri base is located on the top of the highest mountain. The terrain is difficult and easy to defend and difficult to attack. However, there is a direct mountain road from the top to the bottom of the mountain. The slope is not too big. It is very convenient to charge down from the top of the mountain. For this reason, this base has focused on developing ground troops. Armored troops can be seen everywhere inside the base, and there are even more than 100 infantry troops stationed. Just when they saw this, 2 transport planes suddenly appeared in the sky above the Yuri base. More than 20 Yuri recruits jumped from the sky and joined the base as paratroopers. Subsequently, on the outside of the base, there were hundreds of Yuri recruits rushing to help, plus more than a dozen orcs, several psychic troops and virus snipers. Not long after they gathered, a group dispersed and rushed down the mountain. It seems that they are going to travel a long distance to continue attacking and harassing the defenders of the holy city. So far, 3 Yuri bases have appeared in this area. The comprehensive defense, at first glance, can put a lot of pressure on the coalition forces and allied commanders in the holy city. But is this the end? No. This technological innovation on the part of the Allies is very hardcore and has expanded the observation range of the electronic map many times. It is not yet at the limit detection range of the electronic map. It is still expanding, and soon it will cover the entire mountain. Mound area. There are indeed only 3 Yuri bases stationed in the hill area, corresponding to the holy city and resisting each other. However, the pictures exposed outside the hill area made Wang Ling, the 2 commanders, and everyone watching the electronic map instantly blush. On the electronic map, on the other side of the hilly area, on both sides, Yuri's troops built a troop recycling station, each containing more than 20 Yuri recruits, several psychic troops, 5 tornado tanks and 2 guarded by a getter tank. It is also equipped with 2 mind control towers and 2 getter cannons, and the defense is very tight. Why did Yuri's troops build 2 troop recycling depots in a place like this for no reason? Enough support? Of course not. Because there is a strange building built near the army recycling station. When you open the electronic video, it looks like a large prison with a large area. There will be 4 Yuri inside from time to time. The new recruits escorted a group of unarmed civilians out, forcibly drove them into the army recycling station, and handed them all over to 4 cold-crushing hammers to crush and kill them. The prison of love is a concentration camp for civilians. A large number of civilians are imprisoned. During the war, they are sent to the army recycling station in batches, and the lives of civilians are exchanged for combat funds. No wonder Yuri's troops are so wealthy and can frequently form large-scale troops to attack. They are like a group of beasts that eat human-blooded buns. A considerable part of their combat funds are actually obtained in this way. In the past, the coalition forces and allied forces fought against each other and started fighting for hegemony. Although there would be bloodshed and sacrifices, they all maintained restraint after all. Except for a group of who liked to bully one party after capturing a city, others rarely treated civilians. The people took action. But this Yuri army completely ignored all the restrictions. All rules and morals were gone. Not only do they use super weapons unscrupulously, but they also use the lives of civilians to convert funds. Seeing this miserable scene, Wang Ling clenched his fists in anger and made a crunching sound. In fact, he had seen this scene in the new campaign mode in the game. Now he just relived that scene, but it was just a game. Everything in this red alert world was too real, even with the king. He can temporarily summon characters that Ling has a relationship with into the real world through advanced exchanges. This is simply not an experience that can be found in games. For this reason, Wang Ling has long regarded the red alert world not only as a game, but also as another brand new world. And seeing this miserable scene in this world, how could he not be annoyed? Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 589. These beasts are so cruel. Exchanging human lives for money. These beasts are so heartless. Bastard egg. Ah! Yuri troops, you are such bastards. Of course, not only Wang Ling, but also all the officers and soldiers who had the authority to view the electronic map were now paying attention to the electronic map. They all saw this scene. For a moment, almost everyone was burning with anger. Wang Ling had previously talked about the function of this unit's recycling bin in the joint meeting. As a combat force, of course, this group of people learned all the information afterwards, which naturally included this unit's recycling bin. Knowing and seeing with one's own eyes that Yuri's troops ate human blood-steamed buns and used the lives of civilians in exchange for combat funds, this simply stung everyone's sensitive nerves. Yuri, you guys, wait for me. Wang Ling gritted his teeth and felt secretly angry. However, he does not take too many actions now, because the expansion of the electronic map is still continuing. After crossing these rolling hills and packing into 2 army recycling depots, the scope of the electronic map continued to expand, continuing to include large tracts of suburban land, until it expanded to a semi-desert next door. The electronic map has just reached its limit and stopped expanding. In these areas that were subsequently expanded, no trace of Yuri troops or even Yuri bases was found. It seemed that the only ones confronting the Holy City area were the 3 Yuri bases, plus the 2 Yuri troops at the troop recycling depot. After reading this, Wang Ling focused all his attention on the 2 troop recycling stations, narrowing his eyes slightly, revealing some scary looks. However, since he was not a real commander after all, Wang Ling had some restrictions on his actions and did not make any arbitrary decisions. He just immediately used the radio to ask for instructions. Report to the general, Wang Ling requests to go to war. Huh? We have just finished expanding the electronic map, and you are going to fight. General Li Wiki was a little surprised by Wang Ling's request. Wang Ling responded indignantly, General, look at the electronic map. The 2 army recycling depots are all killing ordinary civilians. How can I bear this kind of thing? General Li Wiki couldn't answer for a while. After a few seconds, he sighed and answered with some anger, I also saw that these bastards in Yuri's army will make them pay sooner or later. Don't be too late, General, it's time to take action. The later we set off, the more civilians will suffer, Wang Ling urged impatiently. But General Li Wiki immediately scolded him, why are you in such a hurry? You rushed in so hurriedly, let alone saving people, you will have to fall in, and you will harm all the civilians. Tch, upon hearing this, Wang Ling seemed to be aware of his recklessness. He was so angry that he gritted his teeth and asked, then we just watch? Of course not. We need to agree on a practical attack and rescue plan. Now, take Chen Tong and the other team leaders to the command post. Yes, General. After finally seeing the statement, Wang Ling hurriedly agreed, then hurriedly notified the above-mentioned personnel, arrived at General Li Wiki's command post one after another, and stood in the command hall. Today's General Li Wiki seems to be impatient about this matter. He presses his hands on the control panel and his face looks slightly ugly. After everyone had arrived and the military salute had been performed, General Li Wiki asked, have you seen the current form through the electronic map? See, this damn Yuri army is so inhumane. Chen Tong also became excited, gritting his teeth, as if he wanted to fight with Yuri's army immediately. Others nodded, all showing anger. After hearing this, General Li Wiki took a deep breath, forced himself to calm down, and said, originally, I thought that after the electronic map was expanded and we had a comprehensive field of vision, we would have the advantage and be able to spend some time with Yuri's troops. Fan, take your time to figure it out. However, in the end, I still underestimated the madness of Yuri's army. They took our people to the army recycling station and forcibly killed them to provide them with funds. This is so unconscionable that I can't wait to do it. Lead the army to fight over now. General, what are you waiting for? Just fight and it will be over. Whoever is a coward is the grandson, Sun Dehua, as the captain of the Wolf Group, naturally came to the command post and couldn't help but speak now. But General Lewicki stared back. Fight? Do you know how to fight? Haven't you realized how difficult Yuri's troops are these days? Ordinary attacks will not only fail to save people, but will harm them and destroy them. Let's get in there ourselves. Sundahu opened his mouth, but for a moment he didn't know what to say, and finally had to close his mouth, seemingly unwilling to do so. After stopping him, General Lewicki asked, compared to the 3 Yuri bases, these 2 troop recycling depots must be eliminated first, and they must be eliminated as soon as possible. However, after all, these 2 troop recycling depots are in the enemy's rear, is too far away from us to send a large army to directly encircle and suppress it, otherwise it may be counter-encircled by Yuri's troops. In this case, we can only send out surprise troops. Let's brainstorm how we should fight this battle. After the question was put aside, Chen Tong and the team leaders, who had been filled with indignation before, all fell silent again. It is true that they want to fight, but they have very little experience in fighting Yuri's troops, especially offensively, and they are well aware of the difficulty of Yuri's troops, so they have no good strategies at all. However, Wang Ling replied without hesitation, "General, let me go. I can deal with all the Yuri troops near the troop recycling station by myself." Oh! After hearing this, the others all looked at Wang Ling with surprise, and surprise in their eyes. And considering that Wang Ling is now an elite combat soldier, the combat power he has unleashed before may actually be able to achieve this. However, General Lewicki was still a little worried. Is it okay? Are there any risks? Wang Ling nodded matter-of-factly and said, "General, I will not joke with my life to show off my bravery. At present, at my shooting range, only the virus sniper in Yuri's army can restrain me from a long distance. All other infantrymen, it can be solved. If it is a force attack with tanks, the number must be large enough to make me worry about 1 or 2. If there are only 7 tanks, they will not pose any threat to me at all." He did not mean to brag in these words. Elite combat soldiers are the only hero-level arms of the coalition. They have extremely powerful firepower. In addition, Wang Ling, a pervert, has been promoted to the 3-star elite level. They can deal with those Yuri troop guards. Of course there is no problem. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 590. Hearing what Wang Ling said, the eyes of others looking at Wang Ling were filled with admiration and excitement. With such a pervert in their team, the entire base felt inexplicably safe. In Chen Tong's eyes, there was also a hint of envy. After all, the two were at the same level at first, but now Wang Ling has surpassed him by so much, which made him not accept it very well for a while. However, fortunately, he is not a narrow-minded person, otherwise he would not have gone to Wang Ling alone for advice after his defeat. Now he does not have any negative emotions, he just nodded affirmatively towards Wang Ling. "Well, you are indeed a heroic unit of our coalition." As for General Lewicki, he praised it even more. After praising him, he asked, "I believe you are not a reckless person. Tell me, what kind of help do you need?" Wang Ling answered matter-of-factly, "General, riding on an anti-aircraft tracked vehicle, I can quickly bypass the hilly area, reach the rear troop recovery station, and eliminate all Yuri troops. However, there are too many people for me to carry safely. With so many civilians evacuating safely, there is a risk of sudden accidents and they could easily be intercepted by Yuri's troops, so the base needs to help safely evacuate this group of people." General Lewicki nodded, "Yes, it is very possible. With a group of people, the transfer speed is slow and it is easy to be surrounded by Yuri's troops. Then after you dispatch, the base will also send a group of anti-aircraft crawlers to follow. Prioritize the transfer of the wounded, make several round trips, and speed up the transfer. In addition, Send a group of terrorist robots, rhino tanks, and apocalypse tanks to assist in the evacuation. Great, Wang Ling finally smiled, with this group of rescue teams, it will be easier. But General, what happened again? The two military recycling stations are too far apart. I can only take care of one. And once I do it, the other military recycling station will definitely be on heightened alert, and the people will be in corresponding danger, Wang Ling expressed his concerns. Well, that's a problem. After General Li Wiki muttered for a while, he finally thought of a way. We can't send too many troops, otherwise not only will the holy city's defense line be in danger, but Yuri's troops may also divert their attention. However, this place is more than just we are a base. Contact Reagan immediately. Yes, General. Rovitsky hurriedly connected the radio to the Allied base command post. After the two armies united, the corresponding radio frequency bands were naturally made public. Even if they did not fight together, they could at least communicate with each other. General Lee, what do you want from me? As the commander, General Reagan naturally spent most of his time in the command hall. He received the radio message immediately and responded immediately. It seems that he is still concerned about General Li Wiki's tough attitude before. General Reagan's tone here is somewhat stiff. However, General Li Wiki did not care. General Reagan, first of all, I am very grateful to the Allied spy satellite technology for providing us with a good view. Under this view, General Reagan does not know whether he has discovered that our people are being divided into batches. Send it to the army recycling bin. Yes, I saw it too. General Reagan replied indifferently, without making any statement. General Li Wiki did not make too many detours. He briefly informed Wang Ling of his plan to surprise the troop recycling depot and transfer the masses, and then asked the Allies to cooperate in attacking another troop recycling depot at the same time. The two armies unite, and this kind of joint operation is of course in line with common sense. However, General Reagan's attitude was very surprising. General Lee, the top priority now is to discuss how to attack Yuri base. You left Yuri base alone instead of attacking, and instead took the risk to attack the troop recycling depot. Isn't it better to avoid the important than to seek the far away? General Reagan. General Li Wiki had tried his best to lower his stance and put aside his previous grudges before, but General Reagan didn't buy it at all. After saying this, General Li Wiki became angry instantly. You have gone too far. In your opinion, rescuing people is it trivial to avoid the important thing? Why did we unite to fight this war with Yuri? Is it just to protect ourselves? Reagan, you are a commander and a soldier. Protecting the people, isn't this our duty? General Lee, who are you yelling at? I am also the commander. Why are you yelling at me like this? General Reagan was not happy either. Do you think I just want to watch those people die in vain? Avoiding the most important and taking the easy is not the point. The key is to bypass Yuri's base and attack their rear. This is a dangerous route for us. Once Yuri's troops encircle us, how dangerous it will be for us, don't you think you know? We are soldiers and we have to protect the people. However, we are treated specially under special circumstances. How can the people help when we are fighting against Yuri's troops? But on the other hand, if something happens to us, who will go fighting on the front line against Yuri's troops? You are so messed up. General Reagan. It can also be seen that although the two armies are united in name, in fact, both the lower-level soldiers and the upper-level officials have various conflicts. There are some ideological conflicts, and it is still difficult to act in a unified manner. After hearing this, General Li Wiki also tried to reason with him, but at this time, Wang Ling suddenly intervened and interrupted General Li Wiki. I heard it, you want a necessary reason for the troops to take a dangerous route, really? Well, this reason is very simple to say. If we don't rescue them, All of these people will be sent to the army recycling station and turned into combat funds for Yuri's army to train more troops and manufacture more tanks. If nothing else, for this reason alone, shouldn't we go to war? Wang Ling's reason was so sharp that he threw away all principles and obligations and only talked about the interests. For a while, General Reagan was unable to find any reason to refuse to go to war. But Wang Ling's words are not over yet. What's more, who says that the people can't help in the battle? Aren't we just the people before we join the army? During the war, when recruits are recruited into the army, aren't they selected and trained from the people? Enough. At this point, General Reagan finally had an idea. He is really a sharp-tongued guy. No wonder he can promote the alliance between the two armies. What you said is not unreasonable. If it is not for other reasons, it is just to prevent the enemy from giving in. Yuri's troops have more combat funds, and it's worth the risk to rescue. However, there is a condition for me to send troops to rescue. What conditions? If the people we rescued want to join the army, they must give priority to the Allied forces. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 591. To be honest, General Reagan's request was somewhat shameless, and even suspected of raising the price. Yes, if they choose to join the army, we will not interfere too much in whichever camp they enter. However, General Li Wiki agreed immediately, almost without thinking. In fact, Wang Ling and General Li Wiki did not have so much utilitarianism when they first wanted to rescue the people. They just purely wanted to save people. No matter which side these people choose to join the army after the rescue is successful, they do not have too many requirements. After all, the two armies are now united and both have a common enemy. After the negotiations were completed, General Reagan finally began to take action. After all, it is about rescuing and relocating people, which cannot be accomplished by pure force. For this reason, the Allied forces rushed to produce a batch of transport helicopters, while the coalition forces rushed to produce a batch of anti-aircraft crawler vehicles for transportation. For public use. During the rush period, the Allies seemed to be discussing a combat plan. After all, they had been fighting against the Allied forces for so long. The Allies were not stupid. They knew that they could not mobilize troops on a large scale. In the end, they simply dispatched 4 Phantom tanks and 2 Prism tanks, as well as more than 10 rocket pilots and more than 10 Grizzly tanks came to respond and assist, and a surprise attack team was temporarily formed. As the main offensive tank, the Prism tank's marching speed is slightly slow. For this reason, after the Allied forces faced the emergency team confirmation, the Prism tank did not wait too much. When rushing to build the transport helicopter, it was under the cover of the Phantom tank. Left the base in advance and left the Holy City area after dozens of minutes of trekking. The hilly area occupied by Yuri's troops is very vast, just like an ancient giant beast, entrenched on the ground, cutting off communication on both sides. However, the shape rules of this ancient behemoth are not so strict. There are passages of different sizes on both sides. If you spend a little more time, you can use these passages to go around. In order to avoid a head-on battle with Yuri's troops, the passages on both sides became the target route for the coalition and Allied forces. After leaving the Holy City and confirming the route, these Prism tanks and Phantom tanks lined up in formation and headed straight towards that. One side went around. Seeing this, after estimating the time and speed, Wang Ling finally took action. He directly pulled over an elite anti-aircraft crawler vehicle from the Wolf Group. After specifying the marching route, he sat safely inside, and then the anti-aircraft crawler vehicle started moving with great speed. It has to be said that the speed of the anti-aircraft crawler vehicle is indeed much faster than that of the Prism tank. The lineup of Prism tank and Phantom tank took dozens of minutes to cross the entire Holy City area, but this anti-aircraft crawler vehicle was on its way at full speed. However, it only took more than 10 minutes to leave the Holy City and gallop towards the other side of the hilly area. Now, the main attacking teams from both sides have set off and are running halfway. The commanders of both sides are also estimating the time. After the two sides break into the hilly area, the main transport teams start to take action, running out or flying one after another. After leaving the base, the escort troops also began to set off not long after. Both parties have worked very hard for this rescue plan. However, Wang Ling is not in charge of the overall command. His main tasks are to attack and assist in evacuation. He did not pay too much attention to the series of steps. He just stayed in the anti-aircraft crawler vehicle with peace of mind. After more than 20 minutes of continuous after detoring on the mountain road, they finally successfully crossed the hilly area and detoured to the rear. After another period of sprinting, they officially approached a troop recycling station. The anti-aircraft crawler vehicle stopped, and Wang Ling quickly got out of the vehicle and observed it. After the previous group of people were forcibly driven into the army recycling depot, the area is now relatively peaceful. The next group of people are still detained in the concentration camp and have not been taken out to die. The concentration camp can be seen looming in the distance. The shadowy figures inside clearly indicate that a large number of people are still imprisoned inside. Gritting his teeth and suppressing his inner anger, Wang Ling checked the electronic map again. The coalition's transport troops and the batch of anti-aircraft tracked vehicles are still circling the mountain roads, and the coalition's offensive troops, those several Prism tanks and Phantom tanks, will also take some time to get into position. They are not offensive yet. Opportunity. There is no other way, now we can only continue to wait. The members of Yuri's army here don't seem to have an electronic map. Wang Ling is hiding outside their station and may launch an attack at any time, but they have no idea that a murderer is here. He is still stationed leisurely, with several tanks and several Yuri recruits are patrolling symbolically, but they will not stay away from here at all. Several members of the psychic force are still laughing and chatting. In conjunction with the hammers in the army's recycling bin, this kind of smile really makes people feel chilly. While waiting, Wang Ling had been observing the electronic map. Although the Allied Prism tank was a weapon for siege, its movement speed was very slow. After waiting for more than 10 minutes, even the transport troops of both sides they are almost in place, but the light tank is still halfway there. It looks like it will take some time to arrive. If it were normal, I would have waited a little longer and it would have been over. However, while waiting, Yuri's troops had already taken action, and the next group of people had their hands tied and were escorted out by 4 Yuri recruits. Concentrated towards the troop recycling station. There were about 30 people in this group of people, and everyone's face showed the vicissitudes of life. The cries and helplessness of women and children, as well as the unwillingness of the young and middle-aged people, stung Wang Ling's sensitive nerves every moment. Wire! Damn you, these bastards! If you can't wait any longer, just go to hell for me. Seeing this group of people approaching the army recycling station, Wang Ling finally couldn't wait any longer and rushed forward with his reinforced AK rifle. Da-da-da. Da-da-da. His eyes were on fire, and fire snakes were sprayed from the muzzle of the gun. With a few super-fast bursts, the 4 Yuri recruits responsible for escorting were killed in an instant. Because they died too quickly, by the time of death, none of them knew how they died. Wang Ling's action also instantly aroused the alert of the Yuri troops in this area. The patrolling tanks stopped hurriedly and followed the sound and drove over. A group of Yuri recruits and psychic troops also gathered here. Da-da-da. Da-da-da. Faced with the encirclement and suppression by so many Yuri troops, Wang Ling showed no sign of timidity. He held his rifle and began to fire wildly. Under a round of bursts of fire, more than a dozen of the Yuri troops at the front were killed instantly, and then the muzzle of the gun turned and was aimed at the Getter tank. Under the fierce fire snake, it exploded in just a few seconds. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 592. Da-da-da. Da-da-da. Boom. Boom. Oh. Oh ho. Dot. The total number of Yuri troops stationed there was dozens of times that of Wang Ling, but the actual battle situation was that Wang Ling was fighting alone against a group of people and tanks. It was simply a one-sided massacre. The ferocious fire snake, tinged with Wang Ling's anger, and under concentrated fire, the Getter tank could only hold on for a few seconds before being destroyed. The tornado tank only had a few breaths of time, and other infantrymen were sure to die if they touched it. Whenever the fire snake passed by, there was no enemy at all, and they were all killed instantly. After becoming the 3-star elite, Wang Ling's shooting frequency and range were greatly improved. As a result, the Yuri troops guarding the army recycling station, including dozens of infantrymen and nearly 10 tanks, failed to get close to Wang Ling in the end, and were captured one by one. Shoot and kill, leaving only wreckage everywhere. Samsung's elite combat soldiers are so ferocious. Without the guarding and driving of these Yuri troops, this group of ordinary people would certainly not be so stupid that they would enter the army recycling station and die. However, after all, they were unarmed and had been squeezed for a long time, which had made them desperate. This sudden scene now did not bring them back to their senses. They just stood blankly outside the army recycling station, at a loss. However, they are not safe now. Although Yuri's troops have been completely wiped out, there are still 4 defensive buildings left, which also pose a considerable threat. For this reason, Wang Ling's next step was to forcibly demolish these buildings. Elite combat soldiers have a very strong suppressive force against ground troops, whether infantry or armored troops. However, when attacking buildings, they have some troubles. Wang Ling had to put away his rifle and use a long-range laser locking device. A Getter cannon was locked from a distance and the location information was sent to the MiG fighters outside the battle line. The MiG fighter plane that received the message immediately responded, and Wang Ling heard the sound of the plane taking off on the radio. As a fighter jet, the MiG fighter is naturally quite fast, but after all, it is not on the front line battlefield, so it will take some time to get here. During this period, Wang Ling could only wait patiently, and he could not interrupt the locking, otherwise the MiG fighter would lose its position information and return to the original route. After waiting like this for several minutes, 4 shuttle-shaped MiG fighters finally appeared on the electronic map and rushed towards this place at super-fast speeds. During the flight, you need to fly over the entire hilly area. During this period, there are 3 Yuri bases located at different locations. Fortunately, the routes of these 4 MiG fighter jets do not fly directly over the Yuri base. They just pass by. From the side of the base on the top of the mountain, he flew quickly, and after several minutes of flying, he finally arrived at this location. Upon detecting the approach of an enemy fighter plane, the 2 Getter cannons immediately opened fire to counter-attack the MiG fighters. However, the firepower of the Getter cannon itself is divided into 3 levels. The firepower of the first level is not very fierce and cannot stop the MiG fighters at all. As a result, after the 4 MiG fighters arrived in this area, they directly risked the artillery attack and forcibly dropped a batch of missiles, accurately hitting a Getter cannon and blowing it up almost instantly. As a bomber, the bombing capability of this MiG fighter is even higher than that of the Allied Black Hawk fighter. If the enemy buildings it targets are not shot down far in advance, they will not be able to escape being blown up. Fate, and this gate cannon is a clear example. However, in this game and the game world, the role of fighter planes has been greatly weakened. For example, this MiG fighter plane flew over a long distance and was exhausted after just one round of bombing and blowing up a gate cannon, ammunition, and began the return journey. Naturally, another Getter cannon couldn't stop them, but on the way back, the 4 MiG fighters deviated from the route. As a result, they happened to fly over the Yuri base on the top of the mountain. More than a dozen anti-aircraft firepower points opened fire at the same time. 4 MiG fighters, not a single fighter jet could escape, and all were shot down. After all, this MiG fighter is tied to the elite combatants in the game, just like the relationship between a carrier-based fighter and an aircraft carrier. Even if it is shot down, it will be produced again after a while. At best, it will be more expensive. Just some time, no harm. However, when Wang Ling saw the scene on the electronic map, he became a little impatient, gritted his teeth, and felt very uncomfortable. It was not because the MiG fighter was shot down, but because of the timing of the attack. It took nearly 10 minutes from the time the MiG fighters were dispatched to the successful bombing. A 10-minute attack time is already very fast in a war, but this is a red alert world, which is quite different from a real war. The nearly 10-minute attack only bombed a defensive building, and the next round of bombing, including the return of MiG fighters and the reproduction time after being shot down, it will be longer. This time is really too long for Wang Ling's rapid combat. How much can Wang Ling do during this time? With his combat speed, if done correctly, he might even be able to knock down an enemy base, or level an enemy defense line, and severely defeat the enemy. But when the MiG fighter jets arrived, he had to hold the locking device and could not move or do other things. All the Yuri troops have been killed here, and there is no longer any threat in this area. But if it were elsewhere, and the Yuri troops came to their senses and sent troops to attack, Wang Ling would have no choice but to give up the bombing and lock in, and instead raise his rifle to fight. In the end, it's just a waste of time. So in summary, elite combat soldiers are very powerful against ground troops, but bombing enemy buildings is useless in most cases. After such a long wait, the coalition's transport troops and the group of anti-aircraft tracked vehicles were already in place, and even the Allied forces' Prism tanks and Phantom tanks were already in place and put into battle. Damn it, as expected, there are no perfect troops in this game. For this reason, Wang Ling couldn't help but complain. After this trial, the MiG fighter was shot down, and Wang Ling gave up the idea of continuing to bomb in this way. Ordinary elite combat soldiers have no other options, but Wang Ling is an exception. After giving up this idea, Wang Ling transformed into a king-level magnetic blast infantry, and began to bombard another Getter cannon from a very long distance. That's right, Wang Ling can switch to more than one type of arms. Why must he insist on calling for MiG fighters? For example, the king-level magnetic blast infantry is, after all, much higher than the elite combat soldier, and its combat effectiveness is not bad either. In desperation, Wang Ling directly changed to this unit, and bombarded the remaining soldiers from a long distance. 1 Getter cannon and 2 mind control towers were successfully dismantled without any damage, leaving only a troop recycling station.